Welcome to County Magazine, a chance to find out what's new across Fairfax County. I'm Brian Ashby. On this edition, we'll look at how the county helps residents monitor and maintain maternal health. We'll take a deep dive into the water cycle to find out about dissolved oxygen and why it's critical to all life in the county. And we'll meet a Fairfax County resident who spent time on both sides of the affordable housing issue. Plus, the county is beautifying the mundane with murals. We'll check out the new public art initiative called It Fairfax. Pregnancy and early motherhood can be joyous, confusing, and exhausting. And unfortunately, many women struggle to maintain their mental health during this period. The Fairfax County Health Department is here to assist, with public health nurses trained in perinatal and postnatal issues that can meet mothers where they are. Here's more.
Allow me to introduce you to a scenario about maternal mental health awareness. Carla is 5 months pregnant. She also has an 18-month-old son. She has been feeling much more tired lately and notices that she easily gets frustrated and irritable. She sometimes yells at her son. She's been having difficulties falling asleep. She's been eating a lot more and doesn't feel like herself. She doesn't want to share her feelings with her husband because she thinks he won't understand. She has shared her feelings with some of her female friends, and they have provided some emotional support saying everything will be fine. It's just a phase during pregnancy.
In a situation like this, we must be cautious of how we respond. In Carla's case, we had been providing home visits, and on this particular day, I noticed Carla wasn't herself. The first step we take is to acknowledge any feeling or emotion she's dealing with. Carla began sharing the difficulties she was having. She said she was tired all the time. She spoke about being frustrated over simple tasks and that she has been eating a lot more. I acknowledged her feelings and reassured her that we can work together to get her better. I spoke with Carla about the contributing factors that would cause her to go through what she has been feeling. We spoke about hormonal imbalance being a contributing factor. We even discussed how important it is to speak with her husband about how she's feeling. She was open to everything. She even felt a little less anxious. The reason these discussions are important is that it allows us to partner and collaborate with the client to further explore individual circumstances and needs. The conversations are designed to strengthen personal motivation and empower the client to take the next step towards optimal health and well-being. Screening is a process for evaluating possible presence of a particular problem. We utilize the patient health questionnaire and generalized anxiety disorder to screen for depression and anxiety. Depending on the response, we can determine how to explore options available to Carla for her mental health. This could be something like reminding her of the maternal mental health hotline and seeing what mental health provider options are available to support her. In some cases, an immediate response may be needed. Some women can suffer from psychosis during their perinatal period. Psychosis during the perinatal period is the severest form of mental illness for a mother. They can suffer from extreme confusion, loss of touch with reality, paranoia, delusions, and even disorganized thought process. We were very lucky this was not the case with Carla. Talking to her and acknowledging her feelings really helped a lot. Knowing that she wasn't alone and had multiple ways to reach out uplifted her spirits. She will be following up with her mental health provider, and of course, I will be checking up on her to see how she's improving.
A public health nurse knows that mental health conditions like depression and anxiety are the most common complications during pregnancy and after childbirth. This can affect an estimated 1 in 5 pregnant and postpartum people in the United States. With the growing increase in perinatal mood and anxiety disorders and its impact on maternal and child health outcomes, home visiting nurses play a vital role in promoting assessment and screening of maternal emotional, social, and mental well-being during the perinatal period. For more information, please visit Fairfax County Health Department, Maternal and Child Health Program website.
You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't even taste it. But fish and other aquatic life depend on it. I'm talking about dissolved oxygen, and without it, all life as we know it would dwindle and disappear. So join the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services for a masterclass on dissolved oxygen and its critical role in Fairfax County's ecosphere.
Oxygen is amazing! It's a molecule that's composed of 2 oxygen atoms that are bonded together. And when this molecule is mixed into water, it's known as dissolved oxygen. Oxygen is all around us, and we depend on it to breathe. You know, fish and aquatic life also need oxygen to breathe, but they breathe dissolved oxygen. And if there isn't enough dissolved oxygen in our streams, lakes, or oceans, fish and other aquatic organisms could die. No! But what exactly is dissolved oxygen? Well, when we dissolve anything, it means that we mix a substance into a liquid, and then that substance seems to disappear. Poof! Let me show you. Here I have some sugar. When sugar is dissolved into water, it seems to just disappear into the water. It's the same idea with dissolved oxygen. Oxygen molecules get mixed into water, and it looks like those molecules disappear. Let's take a look at the dissolved oxygen cycle so we can see the different ways that dissolved oxygen enters our waterways. And one way is through rain. During a rainstorm, water flows off the land and runs into streams, rivers, and oceans. And this movement of water, waves, and wind causes the water to connect with air. And this helps change the oxygen in the air into dissolved oxygen in the water. Another way dissolved oxygen is introduced into the water is through aquatic plant photosynthesis. When plants use the sun's energy to make their food, one of the byproducts is oxygen. Did you know that half of the oxygen produced on Earth comes from our oceans? The photosynthesis of ocean plants and plankton create a lot of oxygen for us to breathe. As you know, our oceans have salt water instead of fresh water, and salt takes up a lot of space in water, so there's less space for oxygen to dissolve. If there isn't enough space in the water, dissolved oxygen will escape into the atmosphere. That's the air you and I breathe. I can almost smell the ocean waves now. Well, now we know what dissolved oxygen is, and we also know that aquatic organisms such as fish, invertebrates, and plants need dissolved oxygen to breathe and thrive. This is why a healthy water ecosystem with well-balanced dissolved oxygen levels in our waterway is so important. Now, there are several things that can affect the amount of dissolved oxygen in our water. One big factor is pollution. Pollution can cause algae blooms, and these algae blooms can deplete the oxygen from water and cause dead zones that have no oxygen and therefore no aquatic life. Other factors that affect the amount of dissolved oxygen are really low or high temperatures, the movement of water, and how much salt or salinity a body of water has. All of these factors change the amount of dissolved oxygen in water, and this impacts the overall health of the ecosystem. That is why we monitor and measure dissolved oxygen in our waterways with a variety of instruments so that we can identify sources of pollution, such as nutrient runoff from the land. Typically, aquatic life needs dissolved oxygen levels above 5 milligrams per liter for survival. And as you can see in this chart, the minimum tolerance of dissolved oxygen for fish is 5, right here in the middle. I'll use these dissolved oxygen meters to measure the amount of dissolved oxygen and the temperature to determine if these are a healthy environment for fish and aquatic plants. The warm, polluted water beaker has a reading of 4.1. The cold water beaker's reading is 9.5. And the healthy water beaker, well, it has a reading of 9.2. The cold water and healthy water beakers could sustain aquatic life, but the polluted water can't. We mentioned that water temperature plays a big part in the level of dissolved oxygen. The colder the water, the more dissolved oxygen there is. Now, molecules in colder water are closer together and they don't move around as much, so more molecules can fit into the same area. I like to think of these molecules as all cuddled together, keeping nice and warm. Warm water, on the other hand, contains less dissolved oxygen. The warmer the water, the less oxygen there is for fish to breathe. Now, in warm water, the molecules start to move around and bump into each other, and this reduces the level of oxygen. And I like to think of those molecules as just too hot. Whew. And they don't want to be next to each other. In fact, I don't want them next to me, they're too hot. Whew. Now, you may have heard concerns about ocean temperatures rising. Well, now you understand the dangerous impact that higher water temperatures have on our aquatic ecosystems around the world, and the negative impact of pollution. But you and I can do our part to keep our waterways clean and healthy. Don't pour harmful chemicals or unused medications down the drain. Dispose of them properly. And don't flush wipes. They add plastics and chemicals to our water. Here, take a look. This is a flushable wipe that's been sitting in water for a few hours. Look how cloudy that water has gotten. Ew. And the wipe hasn't even dissolved. Double ew. Ew, ew. Ugh. What else? Oh yeah, don't over-fertilize your lawns and don't over-salt your sidewalks or your driveways during the winter. These chemicals can end up in our water and suffocate our marine life. And please pick up after your pets. Their waste too can end up in our water if it's not picked up. And finally, make sure to recycle as much as you can so that trash and other debris don't end up in our water. If each one of us puts just a little bit of effort into protecting our waterways, we can have a positive influence on our aquatic ecosystems. Thanks for watching.
Did you know environment and energy is an area of focus in Fairfax County? Visit our website and find out how the county is shaping the future of Fairfax to become a place where all people live in a healthy, sustainable environment.
The Fairfax County Board of Supervisors is steadfast in its effort to create affordable housing across the county, leveling the playing field so that all residents can afford to live and thrive here. Here's one county resident who's seen the benefit of this initiative firsthand and from both sides of the coin.
I've worked in human services and social services for over 20 plus years. Started as a volunteer in the HIV prevention and education field, and then moved over to housing and worked with families who were in transitional housing and different issues around poverty and food insecurity. So our family lived in Fairfax City, and my kids were attending Fairfax City schools. My husband worked for a company, for Verizon, before the big Verizon layoff, and I worked for that local nonprofit, and everything was going well. We were taking care of my grandmother, we were living there, and then things started to go sideways when Verizon had their big layoff. We were struggling also to pay for childcare. We made too much that we didn't qualify for any type of subsidy, but we didn't make enough to afford it. So that's when we really started seeing things happen, where we started to experience things like food insecurity here and there, and having to ration diapers and things here and there for when our boys were younger. And then before you know it, like a drip, it just became this big river and we lost everything. We went from being volunteers to on this side needing services, which when you're in social service and human service field, it's really challenging to be on this side if you were already on that side. So I call our family the fortunate homeless, because while we experienced homelessness, we weren't on the street experiencing homelessness or in a shelter experiencing homelessness. We were able to go from the house that we were losing into Bridging Affordability Program, which is a transitional housing program that Fairfax County at that time ran. And by the time the program concluded, because there is a maximum limit you can stay in the program, we were able to secure a voucher. And it was the voucher that ultimately led to us being here. And we've been trying to rebuild ever since. The housing program has really helped my family. It saved our lives. I was constantly stressed out during the twins' pregnancy. I was in the hospital for most of their pregnancy because of their condition. And to be in the hospital knowing you're homeless, not knowing what's going to happen, was really stressful. And I was constantly on edge. My family was on edge, my boys, my husband. And so it allowed us to take a breath. It has allowed us to make plans again. It has allowed us to come so far. We're still dealing with the aftermath. We're not out of the woods, and then of course everybody got set back with COVID, but we've come a really long way. And I think what people need to remember is when people have safe, stable, affordable housing, then they can start to make plans. Then they can go to school. Then kids can thrive. Then families can work on those other things that so many people take for granted. And that's really important, and it's a basic human right to have that access.
Paint It Fairfax is the first county-funded public arts program set up to develop murals in community revitalization districts. With the help of our premier arts organization, Arts Fairfax, the program has hit the ground running, identifying locations for beautification and the talented artists who will make it happen. Check it out.
We're in downtown Annandale. We're at the ACA Child Care Development Center, and in the adjacent Eileen Garnett Civic Space, where we have just created this wonderful mural. When we opened this park a year ago, we knew that this would be a perfect setting to have a mural to help activate the space and create excitement and buzz for the area.
So the mural's at a very central location for this community. It's near the park, it's at the end of a street where you can see it when you come up. It's a very heavily used building. So the mural gets a lot of visitors and gets a lot of, it's very high profile. The goal is that the mural itself will inspire other muralists.
We developed the program, worked with Arts Fairfax, who has networks of artists, where we put out a call for artists saying that we were looking to do public murals, people that were interested in working with the community as part of the mural process. The selection committee is composed of some of my staff, a member of Arts Fairfax, and then community representatives. Each of the semifinalists were interviewed by the committee and then was asked to provide an initial concept. The artist is Pepe Gaka. He had an amazing ability to convey the feelings and emotions that the committee was looking for. The community's reaction to this has been overwhelmingly positive. What we want is people to be excited and take pride in Annandale. The sentiments we're hearing both with the park and this mural space is there's a feeling Annandale is on the upswing. And with our programming events in the park and this mural space, it's really starting to take off.
Well, that's going to do it for this edition of County Magazine. Thanks for joining me. Remember, there are countless ways to get involved in your community and make Fairfax County an even better place to live, work, and play. And one of the most important ways is to be a good neighbor. Check in with the people who live in your community this season and find a place to lend a hand. I'm Brian Ashby, and we'll see you next time on County Magazine.